This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Recorded by Chip in Tampa, Florida, on March 3rd, 2006. The Getting of Wisdom by Henry Handel Richardson. Dedication to my unnamed little collaborator. Wisdom is the principal thing, therefore get wisdom, and with all thy getting, get understanding. Proverbs 4, verse 7. Chapter 1. The 4 children were lying on the grass, and the prince went further and further into the forest, said the elder girl, till he came to a beautiful glade. A glade, you know, is a place in the forest that is open, green, and lovely, and there he saw a lady, a beautiful lady with a long white dress that hung down to her ankles, with a golden belt and a golden crown. She was lying on the sward. Sward, you know, is grass as smooth as velvet, just like green velvet, and the prince saw the marks of travel on her garments. The bottom of the lovely silk dress was all dirty. Wondrous fair, if you don't mind, you'll make that sheet dirty too, said Pin. Shut up, will you? Answered her sister, who, carried away by her narrative, had approached her boots to some linen that was bleaching. Yes, but Sarah will be awfully cross if she has to wash it again, said Pin, who was practical. You'll put me out altogether, cried Laura angrily. Well, as I said, the edge of her robe was all muddy. No, I don't think I would say that. It sounds far prettier when it's clean. So it hung in long, straight, beautiful folds to her ankles, and the prince saw 2 little feet in golden sandals peeking out from under the hem of the silken gown. But what about the marks of travel? Asked Leppy. Donkey! Haven't I said they weren't there? If I say they weren't, then they weren't. She hadn't traveled at all. Oh, parakeets! Cried little Frank. 4 pairs of eyes went up to the bright green flock that was passing over the garden. Now you've all interrupted, and I shan't tell any more, said Laura in a proud voice. Oh, yes, please do, wondrous fair. Tell what happened next, begged Pin and Leppy. No, not another word. You can only think of sheets and parakeets. Please, wondrous fair, begged little Frank. No, I can't now. Another thing, I don't mind if you call me Laura today, as it is the last day. She lay back on the grass, her hands clasped under her head. A voice was heard, loud, imperative. Laura, I want you. Come here. That's Mother calling, said Pin. Laura kicked her heels. The 2 little boys laughed approval. Go on, Laura, coaxed Pin. Mother will be angry. I'll come too. Laura raised herself with a grumble. It's to try on that horrid dress. In very fact, Mother was standing, already somewhat impatient with the dress in her hand. Laura wriggled out of the one she had on and stood stiffly and ungraciously with her arms held like pokers from her sides, while Mother on her knees arranged the length. Don't put on a face like that, miss, she said sharply, unseeing Laura's air. Do you think I'm making it for my own pleasure? She had sewn at it all day and was hot and tired. It's too short, said Laura, looking down. It's nothing of the kind, said Mother, whose mouth was full of pins. It is. It's much too short. Mother gave her head a slight shake. Don't you contradict me. Do you want to tell me I don't know what a length you're to wear in your dresses? I will wear it at all if you don't make it longer, said Laura defiantly. Pin's chubby, featureless little face lengthened with apprehension. Do let her have it just a teeny bit longer, Mother dear, she pleaded. Now, Pin, what have you got to do with it, I'd like to know, said Mother, on the verge of losing her temper over the back folds which would not hang. I'm going to school tomorrow, and it's a shame, said Laura in the low, passionate voice that never failed to exasperate Mother. So different was it from her own hearty fashion of venting displeasure. Pin began to sniff in sheer nervous anxiety. Very well, then, I won't do another stitch to it, said Mother, now angry in earnest, and got up and bounced out of the room. Laura, how can you? Said Pin, dissolving. It was only you who make her so cross. "I don't care," said Laura rebelliously, though she was not far off tears herself. "It is a shame. All the other girls will have dresses down to the tops of their boots, and they'll laugh at me and call me a baby." And touched by the thought of what lay before her, she too began to sniffle. She did not fail, however, to roll the dress up and to throw it into a corner of the room. She also kicked the ewer, which fell over and flooded the floor. Pin cried more loudly and ran to fetch Sarah. Laura returned to the garden. The two little boys came up to her, but she waved them back. "Leave me alone, children. I want to think." She stood in a becoming attitude by the garden gate, her brothers hovering in the background. Then Mother called once more. "Laura, where are you?" "Here, Mother. What is it?" "Did you knock this jug over, or did Pin?" "I did it, Mother." "Did you do it on purpose?" "Yes." "Come here to me." She went with lagging steps, but Mother's anger had passed. She was at work on the dress again, and by squinting her eyes, Laura could see that a piece was being added to the skirt. She was penitent at once, and when Mother in a sorry voice said, "I'm ashamed of you, Laura, and on your last day, too," her throat grew narrow. "I didn't mean it, Mother." "If only you would ask properly for things, you would get them." Laura knew this, knew indeed that, did she coax, Mother would refuse her nothing. But coaxing came hard to her. Something within her forbade it. Sarah called her high-stomached, to the delight of the other children and her own indignation. She had explained to them again and again what Sarah really meant. On leaving the house, she went straight to the flower beds. She would give Mother, who liked flowers very well but had no time to gather them, a bouquet quite the size of a cabbage. Pin and the boys were summoned to help her, and when their hands were full, Laura led the way to a secluded part of the garden on the farther side of the detached brick kitchen. In this strip, which was filled with greenery, little sun fell. 2 thick fir trees and a monstrous blue gum stood there. High bushes screened the fence. Jessamine climbed the wall of the house and encircled the bedroom windows, and on the damp and shady ground only violets grew. Yet with the love children bear to the limited and compact, the 4 had chosen their own little plots here, rather than in the big garden at the back of the house, and many were the times they had all begun anew to dig and to rake.